This is the ultimate documentation of modern betrayal, not a messy confrontation in a parking lot, not a tearful fight over text messages. This is the story of a woman who chose silence over screaming and precision over pain, transforming a 6-year relationship into a perfectly curated expose that garnered millions of views and established her as a global media phenomenon. Her story proves that the greatest act of revenge is not destruction, but the creation of something undeniable. She took the chaos of deceit and meticulously crafted it into her own viral empire. Her name is Sarah, and this is how she became the master narrator of her own heartbreak. For 6 years, Sarah had invested everything into the world shared with David. Their relationship was outwardly a blueprint for success in the digital age. Their shared albums were filled with aspirational images, sun-drenched European vacations, renovation projects, and the subtle, steady accumulation of milestones that signaled a secure future. Sarah, a highly talented graphic designer, wasn't just building a life with David, she was meticulously designing it. She poured her exceptional creative energy, her vision, and her professional acumen into supporting David's trajectory as an ambitious software developer. They were a compelling partnership. David provided the stability and the financial anchor. Sarah provided the artistry and the emotional foundation. They were actively saving for a home, a tangible monument to the promise of forever. Sarah believed in the security. She believed in the narrative. The erosion of trust began not with a sudden fracture, but with a slow, grinding withdrawal. The subtle shifts were barely perceptible at first, yet deeply felt. David's work hours extended further into the realm of the implausible. His responses to her were often delayed, marked by a frustrating curtness that belied their history. The easy, flowing intimacy they once shared, the spontaneous laughter, the comforting touch, was gradually replaced by a professional, distant courtesy. The warmth had been bled out, replaced by a sterile formality. Sarah, whose emotional intelligence was as sharp as her design sense, registered the growing emotional void long before she could assign a name to its cause. The foundation of her world was not cracking with sound. It was hollowing out in absolute silence. The moment of truth arrived, not with the drama of a Hollywood film, but with a horrifying, banal simplicity. David, rushing out for a supposed late-night meeting, had left his personal laptop lid slightly ajar on the kitchen counter. Driven by a deep-seated instinct she could no longer ignore, Sarah approached the machine. There, completely exposed, was the brutal inventory of his deceit. It was not a single regrettable incident. It was a carefully constructed, year-long parallel life. David was deeply entangled with a woman who was a senior, more established, and significantly wealthier colleague. As Sarah scrolled through the intimate planning, future holidays, discussions of career moves, even specific details of the luxurious gifts he had purchased, she understood the scale of his betrayal. David was not merely straying. He was actively, systematically upgrading his life, and she was the asset being quietly phased out. The emotional storm that followed was strangely cold. The initial panic was immediately suppressed by a surge of analytical, blinding clarity. Sarah understood that traditional emotional outbursts, the crying, the pleading, the interrogation, would only serve to empower David. They would give him the script to manage her emotions, to gaslight her, and to control the narrative of the breakup. In that moment of profound realization, a decision was made. She would refuse to grant him that power. Her rage would not be external and chaotic. It would be internal and perfectly controlled. For the next 4 weeks, Sarah became an actress in her own life, a spy in her own home. She maintained their domestic routine with chilling perfection. She cooked David's favorite meals, initiated conversations about their hypothetical future, and pretended to discuss the specifics of the house closing. David, utterly convinced by his own sophistication and Sarah's apparent naivety, was entirely unaware of the surveillance. Sarah used this critical period to transition from victim to architect of exposure. Her apartment became a meticulously designed set, and David, the unsuspecting, arrogant star. She quietly began to gather the required evidence, not for a messy divorce court, but for a global audience. The betrayal had taught her the first lesson of true power: control the release of information. Her silence was not submission. It was the strategic loading of her weapon. She understood that her true strength lay in her ability to transform her searing, private pain into a universally resonant, visual truth. This silent period was the necessary incubation for her. Recognizing the futility of emotional confrontation, Sarah elevated her concept of revenge from a personal dispute to a strategic creative project. Her objective shifted from merely ending the relationship to reclaiming the narrative and transforming her private devastation into a compelling public statement. Sarah, the skilled designer and photographer, understood that the most potent form of exposure was not accusation, but irrefutable artistic presentation. Her clandestine operation was formalized under the internal code name, the Unspoken Frame. This initiative was built on three core non-negotiable principles: no dialogue, ensuring the content's universality; high production value, commanding respect and attention; and visual metaphor, transforming mundane deceit into recognizable symbols of betrayal. Sarah began the painstaking process of acquiring her footage. This wasn't a collection of blurry, shaky phone videos. It was a carefully curated library of visual evidence. She used her high-end camera equipment and professional lighting kits with the cold precision of a surveillance expert. Her focus was on the micro-expressions of guilt and the physical manifestations of the lie. She filmed David's rushed, furtive glances at his phone. She documented the unsettling, hollow smile he would wear when delivering an obvious falsehood. Her camera captured the precise moment his hand hesitated over his wallet, a silent indicator of hidden financial transactions. The surveillance extended beyond mere behavior. Recognizing the transactional nature of his infidelity, Sarah focused on the physical props of the betrayal. She filmed the subtle differences between the worn, modest leather of his old wallet and the pristine, expensive replacement he had recently acquired, a gift from his mistress. She set up time lapses to document the exact increase in their shared spending on work trips. The narrative was built on stark material contrasts, showing the world the true cost and complexity of David's deceit. The most ingenious aspect of her plan was the sound design. Since dialogue was forbidden, the ambient audio had to carry the emotional weight. Sarah meticulously recorded sound effects that amplified the feeling of emptiness and detachment. The metallic, cold clink of keys hitting the countertop as David returned late, the slight, unsettling whoosh of air escaping the door as he slipped out, the unnervingly loud ticking of the clock on the mantelpiece, a silent countdown to his exposure. These precise, controlled sounds replaced the chaos of a screaming match. Once the evidence library was complete, Sarah began the editing process, treating the footage like a cinematic thriller. She employed her professional skills to grade the color palette to cold blues and sharp contrasts, visually reflecting the chilling clarity of her pain. She utilized graphic design overlays, subtle arrows and text highlighting anomalies, to guide the audience's eye, ensuring no critical detail was missed. The resulting videos were not just truthful, they were addictively watchable. The chosen distribution platform was a rapidly expanding video service that rewarded short, high-impact content. Sarah created a completely anonymous account branded The Unspoken Truth. This handle perfectly captured the essence of her work, delivering profound emotional narratives without needing a single spoken word. Her decision to launch was timed for maximum impact, precisely 1 week before David was scheduled to close on the new house, the ultimate symbol of his cynical hypocrisy. This strategic timing ensured the emotional resonance of the narrative would peak just as his carefully constructed facade was about to be made public. Sarah understood that her revenge would not be realized in a private argument, but in a global public spectacle where millions would serve as the jury. The system was now armed, primed, and ready for deployment. The transformation from betrayed partner to viral architect was complete. The moment of release was surgical. Sarah initiated the sequence, uploading the first video, the monogram reveal, to The Unspoken Truth. The 60-second clip, a distillation of months of pain into pure cinematic tension, immediately began to capture attention. Its strength lay not just in the shocking truth, but in the restraint and high production quality. This was not the messy, chaotic output of a scorned lover. This was the methodical, compelling work of a skilled artist. Within hours, the video achieved critical mass. The internet, ever hungry for high-stakes drama and perfectly executed justice, devoured the content. Millions watched, shared, and reanalyzed the frames. The audience quickly transitioned from passive viewers to active participants, forming a global jury dedicated to deciphering the rest of the story. The comments section transformed into a collective forum, a relentless engine of amateur detective work. all focused on the emotional and material clues Sarah had meticulously embedded. Sarah maintained her strategic silence on the platform, allowing the narrative to build momentum organically. She released subsequent videos in a carefully timed sequence, each chapter offering a new, irrefutable piece of evidence. One video graphically illustrated the cost of David's hidden life, using motion graphics to transform his subtle financial discrepancies into stark, alarming charts. Another captured the brief, furtive exchange of glances between David and his mistress in a public setting, shot from a discreet distance, proving the calculated nature of the entanglement. Her genius was in the serialization of the truth, turning a personal tragedy into an addictive weekly show that commanded intense viewer loyalty. The anonymous public scrutiny became an unbearable physical weight on David. He was quickly identified by the relentless pursuit of online users. The exposure of his meticulously constructed duplicity, the perfect partnership, the ambitious career, was now a public spectacle. The emotional justice sought by millions began to manifest in real-world consequence. David's employer, faced with the overwhelming and highly public nature of his ethical misconduct, launched an immediate and discreet internal review. Within weeks, David's carefully planned ascent was violently derailed. His future was abruptly terminated, his career dismantled not by formal legal action, but by the relentless amplified pressure of the digital crowd. He resigned in disgrace, his reputation permanently defined by the narrative Sarah had so elegantly constructed. Sarah did not seek a final confrontation. She needed none. Her revenge was already fulfilled in the perfect synchronized collapse of David's self-made illusion. The success of the Unspoken Truth transcended the initial act of vengeance. The platform, now a cultural phenomenon with millions of loyal subscribers, evolved into a channel dedicated to cinematic, dialogue-free storytelling about resilience, self-discovery, and emotional integrity. Her unique artistic signature was instantly recognizable and highly coveted. Major media outlets and global brands flocked to Sarah, eager to partner with a creator who could command such intense engagement through visual artistry alone. Sarah transitioned entirely from her corporate design role. She became a full-time visual storyteller and creative director, achieving financial independence and global recognition, far beyond anything David's conventional career path could have offered. Sarah's story serves as a profound and powerful lesson. She proved that the true magnitude of strength is not found in the volume of one's anger, but in the calculated precision of one's response. By refusing to be the predictable emotional victim, she retained the control necessary to transform her private pain into her greatest professional asset. She successfully dismantled the narrative of her betrayal and rebuilt her identity as the master architect of her own future. She is the star of her own epic, and the world will continue to watch raptly as her viral empire continues its ascent.